Chapter 8. Major delays at Waterloo Station. We apologise for the giant baboon. The London Underground has lovely acoustics. Sound echoed through the tunnel, so as we descended I could hear the rush of the trains, the musicians playing for coins, and of course the killer baboon guard roaring for blood as he pulverised the turnstiles behind us. What with terrorism threats and stepped-up security, one might have expected a few police to be on hand, but sadly not this time of evening. Not at such a relatively small station. Sirens wailed from the street above, but we'd be dead or long gone by the time mortal help arrived. And if the police did try to shoot Babby while he possessed Gramps' body, no. I forced myself not to think about it. Anubis had suggested travelling underground, and if I had to fight, I should find a bridge. I had to stick to that plan. There wasn't much choice of trains at Canary Wharf. Thankfully, the Jubilee line was running on time. We made it to the platform, jumped aboard the last carriage as the doors were closing, and collapsed on a bench. The train latched away in the dark tunnel. Behind us, I saw no sign of Babby or Neckbet chasing us. "Sadie Kane!" Emma gasped. "Will you please tell us what's going on?" My poor friends. I'd never gotten them into this much trouble, not even when we got shut in the boys' changing room at school. Long story, which involved a 5 quid bet, Dylan Quinn's knickers, and a squirrel. Perhaps I'll tell you later. Emma's feet were cut and blistered from running barefoot. Her pink jumper looked like mangled poodle fur, and her glasses had lost several rhinestones. Liz's face was red as a valentine. She'd taken off a denim jacket, which she never does, as she's always cold. Her white top was blotted with sweat. Her arms were so freckly they reminded me of Newt, the sky goddess's constellation skin. Of the two, Emma looked more annoyed, waiting for my explanation. Liz looked horrified, her mouth moving as she wanted to speak, but had lost her vocal cords. I thought she might make some comment about bloodthirsty gods chasing us, but when she finally found a voice, she said, "That boy kissed you!" Leave it to Liz to have her priorities straight. "I will explain," I promised. "I know I'm a horrible friend, and I'm dragging you both into this, but please, give me a moment. I need to concentrate." "Concentrate on what?" Emma demanded. "Emma, hush," Liz chided. "She said to let her concentrate." I closed my eyes, trying to calm my nerves. It wasn't easy, especially with an audience. Without my supplies, however, I was defenceless, and I wasn't likely to get another chance to retrieve them. I thought, "You can do this, Sadie. It's only reaching into another dimension, only ripping a tear in the fabric of reality." I reached out. Nothing happened. I tried again, and my hands disappeared in the duat. Liz shrieked. Fortunately, I didn't lose my concentration or my hand. My fingers closed around the strap of my magic bag, and I pulled it free. Emma's eyes widened. "That's brilliant! How'd you do that?" I was wondering the same thing, actually. Given the circumstances, I couldn't believe I'd managed it on my second try. "It's... magic," I said. My mates stared at me, mystified and scared, and the enormity of my problem suddenly came crashing down on me. A year ago, Liz, Emma, and I would have been riding this train to Funland or the cinema. We would have been laughing at the ridiculous ringtones on Liz's phone, or Emma's photoshopped pictures of the girls we hated at school. The most dangerous things in my life had been Grant's cooking and Gramps' temper when he saw my marks for the term. Now Gramps was a giant baboon. Grant was an evil vulture. My friends were regarding me as if I'd dropped from another planet, which honestly wasn't far from the truth. Even with my magic supplies in hand, I had no idea what I was going to do. I didn't have the full power of Isis at my command anymore. If I tried to fight Babby and Neckbet, I might injure my own grandparents and would likely get myself killed. But if I didn't stop them, who would? Godly possession would eventually burn out a human host. That almost happened to Uncle Amos, who was a full-fledged magician and knew how to defend himself. Gran and Gramps are old, frail, and quite unmagical. They didn't have much time. Despair, much worse than the vulture goddess's wings, overwhelmed me. I didn't realize I was crying until Liz put her hand on my shoulder. "Sadie dear, we're sorry. It's just a bit... strange, you know? Tell us what's the matter. Let us help." I took a shaky breath. I'd missed my mates so much. I'd always thought them a bit odd, but now they seemed blissfully normal, a part of a world that wasn't mine anymore. They were both trying to act brave, but I could tell they were terrified inside. I wished I could leave them behind. Hide them, keep them out of harm's way, but I remembered what Neckbet had said. They'll make lovely appetizers. Anubis had warned that the vulture goddess would hunt down my friends and hurt them just to hurt me. At least if they were with me, I could try to protect them. I didn't want to upend their lives the way mine had been, but I owed them the truth. "This will sound absolutely mad," I warned. I gave them the shortest version possible. Why I'd left London, how the Egyptian gods had escaped into the world, how I discovered my ancestry as a magician. I told them about how fight was set, the rise of Apophis, our insane idea to awaken the god Ra. 2 stations passed, but it felt so good to tell my friends the story that I'd rather lost track of time. When I was done, Liz and Emma looked at one another, no doubt wondering how to gently tell me I was bonkers. I know it seems impossible," I said, "but Sadie, we believe you," Emma said. I blinked. "You do?" "Of course we do." Liz's face was flushed, the way she got after several roller coaster rides. "I've never heard you talk so seriously about anything. You've changed. It's just, I'm a magician now, and I can't believe how stupid that sounds. It's more than that. Emma studied my face as if I was turning into something quite frightening. You seem older. More mature. Her voice was tinged with sadness, and I realised my mates and I were growing apart. It was as if we stood on opposite sides of a widening chasm, and I knew with gloomy certainty the breach was almost too wide for me to jump back across. Your boyfriend's amazing, Liz added, probably to cheer me up. He's not my... I stopped. There was no winning that argument with Liz. Besides, I was so mixed up about that bloody jackal Anubis, I didn't know where to begin. The train slowed. I saw the signs for Waterloo Station. Oh God, I said. I meant to get off at London Bridge. I need a bridge. Well, can't we backtrack? Liz asked. A roar from the tunnel behind us answered that question. Looking back, I saw a large shape with glittering silver fire loping along the tracks. Its foot touched the third rail and sparks flew, but the baboon lumbered on unfazed. As the train braked, Babby started to gain on us. No going back, I said. We'll have to make it to Waterloo Bridge. That's half a mile from the station, Liz protested. What if it catches us? I rummaged through my bag and pulled out my new staff. Instantly it expanded to full length, the lion-carved tip blazing with golden light. Well, then I suppose we'll have to fight. Should I describe Waterloo Station as it was before or after we destroyed it? The main concourse was massive. It had a polished marble floor, loads of shops and kiosks, and a glass and gutter ceiling high enough so that a helicopter could fly about inside comfortably. Rivers of people flowed in and out, mixing, separating, and occasionally colliding as they made their way to various escalators and platforms. When I was small, the station building had rather frightened me. I worried that the giant Victorian clock hanging from the ceiling might fall and crush me. The announcers' voices were much too loud. I preferred to be the noisiest thing in my environment, thank you very much. The masses of commuters standing mesmerised under the departure boards watching for their trains reminded me of a mob of zombies, which granted I shouldn't have watched those kind of movies as a young child, but I was always rather precocious. At any rate, my mates and I were racing through the main station, pushing our way toward the nearest exit, when a stairwell behind us exploded. Crowds scattered as Bobby climbed from the rubble. Businessmen screamed, dropping their briefcases and sprinting for their lives. Liz, Em and I pressed against the side of the paper chase kiosk to avoid getting trampled by a group of tourists yelling in Italian. Bobby howled. His fur was covered with grime and soot from his run through the tunnels. Gramps' cardigan was ripped to shreds on his arm, but miraculously his glasses were still on his head. He sniffed the air, probably trying to catch my scent. Then a dark shadow passed overhead. Where are you going, Sadie Kane? Neckbet shrieked. She soared through the terminal, swooping down on the already panicked crowds. Would you fight by running away? You're not worthy! An announcer's calm voice echoed through the terminal. The 8:02 train for Basingstoke will arrive on platform 3. Babby swatted a bronze statue of some poor famous bloke and knocked his head clean off. A policeman ran forward armed with a pistol. Before I could yell at him to stop, he fired a shot at Bobby. Liz and Emma both screamed. The bullet deflected off of Bobby's fur as if it were made of titanium and shattered a nearby McDonald's sign. The officer fainted dead away. I'd never seen so many people clear out of a terminal so quickly. I considered following them, but decided it would be too dangerous. I couldn't have these insane guards killing loads of innocent people just because I was in their midst, and if we tried to join the exodus, we'd only get stuck in our crushed stampede. Sadie, look! Liz pointed up, and Emma yelped. Neckbet sailed into the ceiling girders and pouched there with the pigeons. She glared down at us and cried to Bobby. Here she is, my dear! Here! I wish she'd shut up, I muttered. Isis was foolish to choose you, Neckbet yelled. I will feed on your entrails! Brrr, said Bobby in a hearty agreement. The 8:14 train for Brighton is delayed, said the announcer. We apologise for the inconvenience. Bobby had seen us now. His eyes smouldered with primal rage, but I also saw something of Gramps in his expression. The way he furrowed his brow and jutted out his chin, just as Gramps did when he got angry at the telly and yelled at the rugby players. Seeing that expression on the baboon god almost made me lose my nerve. I wasn't going to die here. I wasn't going to let these two repulsive gods hunt my friends or burn up my grandparents. Bobby lumbered toward us. Now that he'd found us, he didn't seem in any hurry to kill us. He lifted his head and made a deep barking sound to the left and the right, as if calling out, summoning friends for dinner. Emma's fingers dug into my arm. Liz whimpered. Sadie? The crowds had mostly cleared out now. No other police were in sight. Perhaps they'd fled, or perhaps they were all on their way to Canary Wharf, not realizing the problem was now here. We're not going to die, I promised my mate. Emma, hold my staff. Right. She took the staff gingerly as if I'd handed her a rocket launcher, which I suppose it could have been with a proper spell. Liz, I ordered. Watch the baboon. Watching the baboon, she said. Rather hard to miss the baboon. I rummaged through my magic bag, desperately taking inventory. Wand? Good for defense, but against two gods at once I needed more. Sons of Horus, magic chalk? This wasn't the place to draw a protective circle. I had to get to the bridge. I needed to buy time to get out of this terminal. Sadie? Liz warned. Babby had jumped onto the roof of the body shop. He roared and smaller baboons began to appear from every direction, climbing over the heads of fleeing commuters, swinging down from the girders, popping out of the stairwells and shops. There were dozens of them, all wearing black and silver basketball jerseys. Was basketball some sort of international baboon sport? Until today, I'd been rather fond of baboons. The ones I met before, like Khufu and his sociable friends, were the sacred animals of Thoth, god of knowledge. They were generally wise and helpful. I suspected, however, that Bobby's troop of baboons was a different sort altogether. They had bloodied fur, wild eyes, and fangs that would have made a saber-toothed tiger feel inadequate. They began to close in, snarling as they prepared to pounce. I pulled a block of wax from my bag. No time to fashion a shabti. 2 Tiet amulets, the sacred mark of Isis. Those might be helpful. Then I found a corked glass vial I'd quite forgotten about. Inside was some murky sludge. My first attempt at a potion. It had been sitting at the bottom of my bag for ages because I'd never been desperate enough to test it. I shook the potion. The liquid glowed with a sickly green light. Bits of gunk swirled inside. I uncorked it. The stuff smelled worse than neckbed. "What is that?" Liz asked. "Disgusting," I said. Animation scroll blended with oil, water, and a few secret ingredients. It came out a bit chunky, I'm afraid. Animation, Liz said. "You're going to summon cartoons?" "That would be brilliant," I admitted. "But this is more dangerous. If I do it right, I can ingest a great deal of magic without burning myself up." "And if you do it wrong?" Liz asked. I handed each of them an amulet of Isis. "Hold on to these. When I say go, run for the taxi stands. Don't stop." "Sadie," whispered Emma. What on earth?" Before I could lose my nerve, I gagged down the potion. Above us, Neckbed cackled. "Give up! You cannot oppose us!" The shadow of her wings seemed to spread over the entire concourse, making the last of the commuters flee in panic and weighing me down with fear. I knew it was only a spell, but still, the temptation to accept a quick death was almost overwhelming. A few of the baboons got distracted by the smell of food and raided the McDonald's. Several others were chasing a train conductor, beating him with a rolled-up fashion magazine. Sadly, most of the baboons were still focused on us. They made a loose ring around the paper chase kiosk. From his command stand atop the body stop, Bobby howled, a clear command to attack. Then the potion hit my gut. Magic coursed through my body. My mouth tasted like I'd swallowed a dead toad, but now I understood why potions were so popular with ancient magicians. The animation spell, which had taken me days to write and would normally take at least an hour to cast, was now tingling in my bloodstream. Power surged into my fingertips. My only problem was channeling the magic, making sure it didn't burn me to a crisp. I called on Isis as best I could, tapping her power to help me shape the enchantment. I envisioned what I wanted, and the right word of power popped into my head. Protect. And da. I reached the magic. A gold hieroglyph burned in front of me. A wave of golden light rippled through the concourse. The troop of baboons hesitated. Bobby stumbled on the body shop roof. Even Neckbet squawked and faltered on the ceiling girders. All around the station, inanimate objects began to move. Backpacks and briefcases suddenly learned to fly. Magazine racks, gum, sweets, and assorted cold drinks exploded out of the shops and attacked the baboon troop. The decapitated bronze head from the statue shot out of nowhere and slammed into Bobby's chest, knocking him backward through the roof of the body shop. A tornado of pink Financial Times newspapers swirled toward the ceiling. They engulfed Neckbed, who stumbled blindly and fell shrieking from a perch in a flurry of pink and black. "Go!" I told my friends. We ran for the exit, weaving around baboons who were much too busy to stop us. One was being pummeled by half a dozen bottles of sparkling water. Another was fending off a briefcase and several kamikaze blackberries. Bobby tried to rise, but a maelstrom of body shop products surged around him. Lotions, loofah sponges, and shampoos all battering him, squirting in his eyes, and trying to give him an extreme makeover. He bellowed in irritation, slipped, and fell back into the ruined shop. I doubted my spell would do the gods any permanent damage, but with luck it would keep them occupied for a few minutes. Liz, Em, and I made it out of the terminal. With the entire station evacuated, I didn't really expect any cabs to be in the taxi queue, and indeed the curb was quite empty. I resigned myself to running all the way to Waterloo Bridge, though Emma had no shoes, and the potion made me queasy. "Look," Liz said. "How well done, Sadie," Emma said. "What?" I asked. "What'll I do?" Then I noticed the chauffeur, an extremely short, scruffy man standing at the edge of the drive in a black suit, holding a placard that read, Kane. I suppose my friends thought I'd summon him by magic. Before I could tell them differently, Emma said, "Come on!" and they sprinted toward the little man. I had no choice but to follow. I remembered what Anubis had said about sending my driver to meet me. I suppose this must be him, but the closer we got, the less eager I was to meet him. He was shorter than me by half, stouter than my Uncle Amos, and uglier than everyone else on the planet. His facial features were positively Neanderthal. Under his thick, furry monobrow, one eye was bigger than the other. His beard looked as if it had been used to scrape greasy pots. His skin was poxy with red welts, and his hair looked like a bird's nest that had been set on fire then stomped out. When he saw me, he scowled, which did nothing to help his appearance. "About time!" His accent was American. He belched into his fist, and the smell of curry nearly knocked me over. "Best friend? Sadie Kane?" Possibly. I decided to have a serious talk with Bast about his choice of friends. By the way, we have 2 gods trying to kill us." The warty little man smacked his lips, clearly unimpressed. "Guess I want a bridge, then." He turned toward the cab and yelled, "Boo!" A black Mercedes limousine appeared out of nowhere, as if it had been scared into existence. The chauffeur glanced back at me and arched his brow. "Well, get in." I'd never been in a limousine before. I hope most are nicer than the one we took. The back seat was littered with takeaway curry containers, old fish and chip paper, crisp bags, and various dirty socks. Despite this, Emma, Liz, and I crammed together in the back because none of us dared ride up front. You may think I was mad to get in a car with a strange man. You're right, of course, but Bastard promised to help us, and Anubis had told me to expect a driver. The fact that our promised help was a little man with a bad hygiene and magic limousine did not particularly surprise me. I'd seen stranger things. Also, I didn't have much choice. The potion had worn off, and the strain of releasing so much magic had made me light-headed and wobbly-legged. I wasn't sure I could have walked to Waterloo Bridge without passing out. The chauffeur floored the gas and barreled out of the station. The police had cordoned it off, but our limo swerved around the barricades, past a cluster of BBC News vans and a mob of spectators. No one paid us any attention. The chauffeur started whistling a tune that sounded like Short People. His head barely reached the headrest. All I could see of him was a grubby nest of hair and a set of furry hands on a wheel. Stuck in the sun visor was an identification card with his picture, sort of. It had been taken at point-blank range, showing only an out-of-focus nose and a hideous mouth, as if he'd been trying to eat the camera. The card read, "Your driver is Bess." "You're Bess, I guess," I said. "Yes," he said. "Your car's a mess," Liz muttered. "If one more person rhymes," Emma grumbled, "I'll throw up." "Is it Mr. Bess?" I asked, trying to place his name from Egyptian mythology. I was fairly sure they hadn't had a god of chauffeurs. "Lord Bess? Bess the extremely short?" "Just Bess," he grunted. "One S, and no, it's not a girl's name. Call me Bessie and I'll have to kill you. As for being short, I'm the dwarf god, so what do you expect? Oh, there's bottled water for you back there if you're thirsty." I looked down, rolling about at my feet with two partially empty bottles of water. One had lipstick on the cap. The other looked as if it had been chewed on. "Not fasty," I decided. Liz and Emma murmured agreement. I was surprised they weren't absolutely catatonic after the evening's events, but then again, they were my mates. I didn't hang out with weak-willed gals, did I? Even before I discovered magic, it took a strong constitution and a fair amount of adaptability to be my friend. No comment from you, Carter. Police vehicles were blocking Waterloo Bridge, but Bess swerved around them, jumped the pavement and kept driving. The police didn't even blink. "Are we invisible?" I asked. "To most mortals," Bess bellowed. "They're pretty dense, aren't they? Present company expected, etc." "You're really a god?" Liz asked. "Huge," Bess said. I'm huge in the world of gods." "Well, I'm a huge god of dwarves," Emma marveled. You mean as in, like, Snow White? "All dwarves." Bess waved his hands expansively, which made me a bit nervous as he took both of them off the wheel. "Egyptians were smart. They honored people who were born unusual. Dwarves were considered extremely magical, so yeah, I'm the god of dwarves." Liz cleared her throat. "Isn't there a more polite term we're supposed to use nowadays, like little person or vertically challenged?" "I'm not going to call myself the god of vertically challenged people," Bess grumbled. "I'm a dwarf. Now, here we are. Just in time." He spun the car to a stop in the middle of the bridge. Looking behind us, I almost lost the contents of my stomach. A winged black shape was circling over the riverbank. At the end of the bridge, Bobby was taking care of the barricade in his own fashion. He was throwing police cars into the River Thames, while the officers scattered and fired their weapons, though the bullets seemed to have no effect on the baboon god's steely fire. "Why are we stopping?" Emma asked. Bess stood on his seat and stretched, which he could do quite easily. "It's a river," he said. "Good place to fight gods, if I do say so myself. All that force of nature flowing underneath our feet makes it hard to stay anchored to the mortal world." Looking at him more closely, I could see what he meant. His face was shimmering like a mirage. A lump formed in my throat. This was the moment of truth. I felt sick from the potion and from fear. I wasn't at all sure I had enough magic to combat these two gods, but I had no choice. "Liz? Emma?" I said. "We're getting out." Getting out?" Liz whimpered. Emma swallowed. "Are you sure?" "I know you're scared," I said, "but you'll need to do exactly as I say." They nodded hesitantly and opened the car doors. The poor things. Again, I wish I'd left them behind, but honestly, after seeing my grandparents possessed, I couldn't stand the idea of letting my friends out of my sight. Bess stifled a yawn. "Need my help?" Bobby was lumbering toward us. Neckbet circled over him, shrieking orders. If the river was affecting them at all, they didn't show it. I didn't see how a dwarf god could stand against those two, but I said, "Yes, I need help." "Right." Bess cracked his knuckles. "So get out." "What? I can't change my clothes with you in the car, can I? I have to put on my ugly outfit." "Ugly outfit?" "Go!" the dwarf commanded. "I'll be out in a minute." It didn't take much encouragement. None of us wanted to see any more of Bess than we had to. We got out, and Bess locked the doors behind us. For all I knew, Bess would be relaxing, listening to music while we got slaughtered. I certainly didn't have much hope that a wardrobe change was going to defeat Neckbed and Bobby. I looked at my frightened mates, then at the two gods charging toward us. "We'll make our last stand here." "Oh, no, Liz said. "I really don't like the term last stand." I rummaged through my bag and took out a piece of chalk and the 4 Sons of Horus. Liz, put these statues at the cardinal points. North, south, and so on. Emma, take the chalk. Draw a circle connecting the statues. We only have a few seconds. I traded her the chalk for my staff, then had a horrible flash of déjà vu. I just ordered my friends into action exactly as Zia Rashid had bossed me the first time we faced an enemy god together. I didn't want to be like Zia. On the other hand, I realized for the first time just how much courage she must have had to stand up to a goddess when protecting 2 complete novices. I hate to say it, but it gave me a newfound respect for her. I wish I had her bravery. I raised my staff and warmed and tried to focus. Time seemed to slow down. I reached out with my senses until I was aware of everything around me. Emma scrolling with the chalk to finish the circle. Liz's heart beating too fast. Bobby's massive feet pounding on the bridge as he ran toward us. The Thames flowing under the bridge. The currents of the Duat flowing around me just as powerfully. Vas once told me the Duat was like an ocean of magic under the surface of the mortal world. If that were true, then this place, a bridge over moving water, was like a jet stream. Magic flowed more strongly here. It could drown the unwary. Even the gods might be swept away. I tried to anchor myself by concentrating on the landscape around me. London was my city. From here I could see everything. The Houses of Parliament, the London Eye, even Cleopatra's Needle on the Victoria Embankment, where my mother had died. If I failed now so close to where my mother had worked her last magic... No, I couldn't let it come to that. Bobby was only a metre away when Emma finished the circle. I touched my staff to the chalk and golden light flared up. The baboon god slammed into my protective force field like it was a metal wall. He staggered backward. Neckbet swabbed away at the last second and flew around us, clawing in frustration. Unfortunately, the circle's light began to flicker. My mum had taught me at a very young age, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That applied to magic as well as science. The force of Bobby's assault left me seeing black spots. If he attacked again, I wasn't sure I could hold the circle. I wondered if I should step outside, make myself the target. If I channeled energy into the circle first, it might maintain itself for a while, even if I died. At least my friends would live. Zia Rashid had probably been thinking the same thing last Christmas when she'd stepped outside a circle to prevent Carter and me. She really had been annoyingly brave. Whatever happens to me, I told my friends, stay inside the circle. Sadie, Emma said. I know that tone of voice. Whatever you're planning, don't. You can't leave us, Liz pleaded, and she shouted at Bobby in a squeaky voice. Go away, you horrible foamy ape. My friend here doesn't want to destroy you, but she will. Bobby snarled. He was rather foamy thanks to the body shop attack, and he smelled wonderful. Several different colours of shampoo foam and bath beads were matted in a silver fire. Neckbed hadn't fared so well. She perched atop a nearby lamppost, looking as if she'd been assaulted by the entire contents of the West Cornwall Pasty Company. Bits of ham, cheese, and potatoes spattered her feathery cloak, giving testament to the brave enchanted meat pies that had given their brief lives to delay her. Her hair was decorated with plastic forks, napkins, and bits of pink newsprint. She looked quite keen to tear me to shreds. The only good news, Bobby's minions evidently hadn't made it out of the train station. I imagined a troop of pasty-splattered baboons shoved against police cars and handcuffed. It lifted my spirits somewhat. Neckbet snarled. You surprised us at the station, Sadie Kane. I'll admit that was well done. And bringing us to this bridge, a good try, but we are not so weak. You don't have the strength to fight us any longer. If you cannot defeat us, you have no business raising Ra. You lot should be helping me, I said. Not trying to stop me. Ugh, Bobby barked. Indeed, agreed the vulture goddess. The strong survive without help. The weak must be killed and eaten. Which are you, child? Be honest. The truth? I was about to drop. The bridge seemed to be spinning beneath me. Sirens wailed on both banks of the river. More police had arrived at the barricades, but for now they made no effort to advance. Bobby bat his fangs. He was so close I could smell his shampooed fur and horrid breath. Then I looked at Gramps' glasses still stuck to his head, and all my anger came back. Try me, I said. I follow the path of Isis. Cross me, and I'll destroy you. I managed to light my staff. Bobby stepped back. Neckbet fluttered on a lamppost. Their forms shimmered briefly. The river was weakening them, loosening their connection to the mortal world like the interference on a mobile phone line. But it wasn't enough. Neckbet must have seen the desperation in my face. She was a vulture. She specialized in knowing when her prey was finished. A good last effort, child, she said, almost with appreciation. But you've nothing left. Bobby, attack! The baboon god reared up on his back legs. I got ready to charge and deliver one final burst of energy, to tap into my own life source and hopefully vaporize the gods. I had to make sure Liz and Emma survived. Then the limo's door opened behind me. Bez announced, No one's attacking anyone. Except me, of course. Neckbet shrieked in alarm. I turned to see what was going on. Immediately I wished I could burn my eyes out of my head. Liz made a gagging sound. Flod, no, that's wrong! Ah! Emma shouted, in perfect baboon speak. Make him stop! Bess had indeed put on his ugly outfit. He climbed onto the roof of the limo and stood there, legs planted, arms akimbo, like Superman, except with only the underwear. For those faint of heart, I won't go into great detail, but Bess Oliver Meter Tor was showing off his disgusting physique. His pot-belly, hairy limbs, awful feet, gross flabby bits, and wearing only a blue Speedo. Imagine the worst-looking person you've ever seen on a public beach. The person for whom swimwear should be illegal. Bess looked worse than that. I wasn't sure what to say except, "Put on some clothes!" Bess laughed. The sort of guffaw that says, "Ha ha, I'm amazing." "Not until they leave," he said, "or I'll be forced to scare them back to the duat."
"This is not your affair, dwarf god!"
Neckbet snarled, averting her eyes from his horribleness.
"Go away!"
"These children are under my protection," Bess insisted. "I don't know you," I said. I never met you before today." "Nonsense. You expressly asked for my protection."
"Well, I didn't ask for the Speedo patrol."
Bess leapt off the limo and landed in front of my circle, placing himself between Bobby and me. The dwarf was even more horrible from behind. His back was so hairy it looked like a mink coat, and on the back of his Speedo was printed, "Dwarf Pride." Bess and Bobby circled each other like wrestlers. The baboon god swiped at Bess, but the dwarf was agile. He scrambled up Bobby's chest and headbutted him in the nose. Bobby staggered backward as the dwarf continued pounding away, using his face as a deadly weapon.
"Don't hurt him!"
I yelled.
"It's my Gramps in there!"
Bobby slumped against the railing. He blinked, trying to regain his bearings, but Bess breathed on him, and the smell of curry must have been too much. The baboon's knees buckled. His body shimmered and began to shrink. He crumpled on the pavement and melted into a stocky grey-haired pensioner in a tattered cardigan.
"Gramps!"
I couldn't stand it. I left the protective circle and ran to his side. "He'll be fine," Bess promised. Then he turned toward the vulture goddess. "Now it's your turn, Neckbet. Leave."
"I saw this body fair and square," she wailed. "I like it in here."
"You asked for it." Bess rubbed his hands, took a deep breath, and did something I will never be able to erase from my memory. If I simply made a face and yelled boo, that would have been nothing compared to what he did. Though technically correct, but it wouldn't even begin to convey the horror. His head swelled. His jaw unhinged until his mouth was 4 times too big. His eyes bulged like grapefruits. His hair stuck straight up like bass. He shook his face and waggled his slimy green tongue and roared boo so loudly the sound rolled across the Thames like a cannon shot. This blast of pure ugly blew the feathers off Neckbet's cloak and drained all the colour from her face. It ripped away the essence of the goddess like tissue paper in a storm. The only thing left was a dazed old woman in a flower-print dress, squatting on the lamppost.
"Oh dear."
Gran fainted. Bess jumped up and caught her before she could topple into the river. The dwarf's face went back to normal, well, normally ugly at least, as he eased Gran onto the pavement next to Gramps. "Thank you," I told Bess.
"Now will you please put on some clothes?"
He gave me a toothy grin, which I could have lived with. "You're all right, Sadie Kane. I see why Bass likes you." "Sadie?" My grandfather groaned, his eyelids fluttering open.
"I'm here, Gramps."
I stroked his forehead.
"How do you feel?"
"Strange craving for mangoes." He went cross-eyed. "And possibly insects. You saved us."
Not really," I admitted. "My friend here."
"Certainly she saved you," Bess said. "Brave girl you have. You're quite a magician." Gramps focused on Bess and scowled.
"Bloody Egyptian gods in a bloody revealing swimwear. This is why we don't do magic."
I sighed with relief. Once Gramps started complaining, I knew he was going to be all right. Gran was still passed out, but her breathing seemed steady. The colour was coming back into her cheeks. "We should go," Bess said. "The mortals are ready to storm the bridge." I glanced toward the barricades and saw what he meant. An assault team was gathering. Heavily armoured men with rifles, grenade launchers, and possibly many other fun toys that could kill us.
"Liz? Emma?"
I called.
"Help me with my grandparents."
My friends ran over and started to help Gramps sit up, but Bess said, "They can't come."
"What?"
I demanded.
"But you just said—"
"They're mortals," Bess said. "They don't belong in your quest. If we're going to let the second scroll from Vlad Menshikov, we need to leave now."
"You know about that?"
Then I remembered that he'd spoken with Anubis. "Your grandparents and friends are in less danger here," Bess said. "The police will question them, but they won't see old people and children as a threat."
"We're not children,"
Emma grumbled.
Vultures,"
Gran whispered in her sleep.
Meat pies."
Gramps coughed. "The dwarf is right, Sadie. Go. I'll be tip-top in a moment, though it's a pity the baboon chap couldn't leave me some of his power. Haven't felt as strong in ages." I looked at my bedraggled grandparents and friends. My heart felt like it was being stretched in more directions than Bess's face. I realized the dwarf was right. They'd be safer here facing an assault team than going with us. And I realized, too, that they didn't belong on a magic quest. My grandparents had chosen long ago not to use their ancestral abilities. And my friends were just mortals. Brave, mad, ridiculous, wonderful mortals. But they couldn't go where I had to go.
"Sadie, it's fine."
Emma adjusted her broken glasses and tried for a smile.
"We can handle the police. Won't be the first time we'd had to do some quick talking, eh?" "We'll take care of your Gran and Gramps," Liz promised.
"Don't need taking care of," Gramps complained. Then he broke down in a fit of coughing. "Just go, my dear. That baboon god was in my head, I can tell you.
I can tell you he means to destroy you. Finish your quest before he comes after you. I couldn't even stop him. I couldn't. He looked resentfully at his old shaky hands. I never would have forgiven myself. Now off with you.
I'm sorry, I told them all. I didn't mean... Sorry, Emma demanded. Sadie Kane, that was the most brilliant birthday party ever. Now go. She and Liz both hugged me, and before I could start crying, Beth shepherded me into the Mercedes. We drove north toward the Victoria Embankment. We were almost to the barricades when Beth slowed down. What's wrong? I asked. Can't we go past invisibly?
Not the mortals I'm worried about, he pointed.
All the police, reporters, and spectators around the barricades had fallen asleep. Several military types in body armor were curled on the pavement, cuddling their assault rifles like teddy bears. Standing in front of the barricades, blocking our car, were Carter and Walt. They were disheveled and breathing heavily, as if they'd run here all the way from Brooklyn. They both had wands at the ready. Carter stepped forward, pointing his sword at the windshield.
Let her go, he yelled at Bess, or I'll destroy you.
Bess glanced back at me.
Should I frighten him?
No, I said. That was something I didn't need to see again. I'll handle it. I stepped out of the limo. Hello, boys. Brilliant timing. Walt and Carter frowned.
You're not in danger,
Walt asked me. Well, not anymore. Carter lowered his sword reluctantly. You mean the ugly guy? He's a friend, I said. A Bass friend. He's also our driver. Carter looked equal parts confused, annoyed, and uneasy, which made a satisfying ending to my birthday party. Driver to where? He asked. Well, Russia, of course, I said. Hop in.